You're watching Man Coverage with Nate Schmidt and James Bonneville on National Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone. It is April 13, 2025. This is Man Coverage, Knoxville, Nate and James P. Bonneville coming at you live. We are talking college football. We are talking spring football. We are talking, transfer portal as it relates to college football, as that is part of our world. We are talking money, as that's what college football is about these days. And we are back after a little hiatus. James, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm good. I'm just, man, it's like every freaking day there's just a new story breaking on something. So it's just freaking crazy. So let's get at it.
Yeah, man, it's pretty nuts out here. And we just wanted to take a moment and thank the National Streaming Sports Network that brings our show to life. We also want to thank our sponsors, SeatGeek. Please go to SeatGeek.com. Use promo code NSS. Get $20 off your next ticket purchase. And if you are ready to place a wager, please go to betus.com and use America's trusted sports book. So I think we need to start right here in Knoxville, Tennessee, where the Tennessee Volunteers had their spring game yesterday. However, the spring game was not really what people were talking about. Let's just be honest, James. Their quarterback is jetting out, and we started hearing noise about this on Friday, talking about negotiations. Pretty much every year, these NIL deals are renegotiated. It's a one-year contract, essentially. That's why everybody hits the portal every year, because they're looking for a better deal. So, I understand all of that, but let's be, frank here. Nico Iamaleava got a $8.6 million NIL deal to come to Tennessee before he had ever thrown a pass. This guy has played good at times. He's been a decent starter, obviously. He has a pretty solid record. I think he's 11-3 as a starter at Tennessee. And, it's looked good, led them to the college football playoff, all that good stuff. But do I think that he deserved a bump and is worth $4 million a year? I do not. Coach Josh Heupel, the collective, the athletic director, the powers that be agreed with me, and kudos to them for saying no, James. Nico did not get his wishes. He was not granted a $4 million raise, and then he wouldn't show up to practice. And when he didn't show up to practice, Coach Heupel was like, "That's it, we're moving on." And he told the team they were moving on, and here we are. What did you think about this whole deal, James? What did you think about him asking for more money? And do you agree with me that Tennessee made the right move?
I'm not shocked he asked for more money, because it seems like everybody asked for more money. But it's at the end of the day, what Josh Heupel did really put a line in the sand, because let's say he does, like he did give in. Could you imagine what that locker room would have become?
Nightmare.
It would have been a freaking nightmare. I mean, honest to God, because now every other player is going to be running into the office asking for more money, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, Nico's going to end up somewhere. He's not going to end up at like some mid-major in Louisiana. He's going to be at some program, but I mean, I got to give Heupel credit, because I mean, you look back in his past. I mean, when he was at Oklahoma, Missouri, Utah State, even Central Florida, he's lost really good quarterbacks and really done well developing that next person to come in and take over the program. So I think Tennessee, I mean, even though it looks kind of bleak right now, I think Tennessee's really should have faith in what he has done in the past, because he's proven it time and time again as an OC, as a head coach, no matter where he's been. So
that's a great point. I love that you said that, because that is exactly what Josh Heupel said in his press conference yesterday. Of course, almost every question after the spring game was about Nico. And I think he told somebody he was going to give him money because they asked him about the actual game. But yeah, I mean, I understand everybody asking it, but that's exactly what he said. He said it when he was at Central Florida. They had a kid go down on the first day of practice. I think it was Gabriel, who got hurt on the first day of practice in the fall, and they replaced him and they moved on. You know, obviously this isn't an injury, but they're treating it like an injury. Like, hey, Nico's gone. He's done. He's not going to play for us. Next man up. Let's move on. And, you know, I think this sets a precedent not only for his team, but I think this kind of sets a precedent for college football as a whole, where other teams can be like, hey, you know, their quarterback asked for money down in Knoxville and he wanted $4 million raise, and they said no. And look, you know, they moved on. Maybe they didn't have the greatest season, but you, like you said, you have to draw a line in the sand somewhere. You can't just cave to, I mean, you got to ask. It's kind of like asking for a raise. If you don't ask, you ain't going to get it. So I don't really fault the kid for asking. What I fault the kid for is then not showing up to practice when he's been on the team for this is his third year, and everyone's counting on him, and to just not show up, not even tell them that he wasn't going to show up. I think that's pretty piss poor. At least tell them, you know, at least have some communication and be a man and say, hey, I'm not coming. I'm not going to be there. I think it's best for me to move on. You know, that if that's what he decides, you know, more power to him. But you know, I think they're owed, after all they've given him. And what I mean by that is not only money, but platform. You know, they've given him a place to show his wares and to get his name known, playing in the SEC. And, you know, I think the university deserved at least some communication. Don't you, James?
I do. You know, it was something that was said, not that, I mean, it was yesterday I read it. I believe it was Reese Davis who put it out there. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But honestly, I think Tennessee should get some compensation for this, because, I mean, they made a 4-year deal with Nico in this respect, and now he just wants to hold out and thinking he can get more than really what's this contract worth, but nothing. And if he goes somewhere else, Tennessee should get some sort of compensation in rears for what happened here, because I mean, this was purely about money in this respect. There should be some, I mean, they should be able to hold his rights depending on where he ends up, where they get something from that new school. I mean, it sounds very much like the NFL, but I mean, that's the way this is being treated right now. And I think Tennessee does deserve something in return, because Nico did not live up to his contractual obligations.
Yeah, and that's where that's where lawyers, you know, nobody likes lawyers until they need them. And that's where lawyers become very important here, because the language in these contracts, so to speak, become very important. Was it written that he had to be here for 4 years? Was it in the language that he had to play for a certain amount of time, or that this was, I believe that it was, based on what I'm hearing. And so I agree with you, you know, hit him up, get some money back and use that to move forward, because if he signed a deal and said he was going to be there for 4 years and then he didn't honor that, you know, then you want to get some of that cash back. This game is all about money now. And, you know, people can do whatever they want, obviously, but there's going to be consequences for your actions. And I agree with you. I think they should hit them up and get some money from his camp. And the other thing that I kind of thought was disgusting was, you know, when the rumors started circulating about Nico bouncing, obviously there was a lot of noise around here where I live in Knoxville now. And Nico's dad came out and was like, you know, this is ridiculous. You know, my son is sticking around here. And then he leaves the next day. And I'm like, why would you say that and you know, hit social media and run your mouth if that you weren't 100% sure he was coming back. You know what I mean?
Well, I've always found it weird when parents get involved in stuff like that too, as well. I mean, because then they want to be part of the story. It is, yeah. This whole thing's just become a mess. I mean, in all honesty, even if he wanted to come back now and say, "I'll finish out the rest of my deal,"
No,
you can't have him.
No.
Because, I mean, you're setting a precedent for the future that someone else can pull the exact same thing. And, don't get me wrong, Nico's a very good player, but you've got 104 other guys in that locker room, and crap could go sideways in a second. I mean, this sounds strange, but, in some ways, I look at Tennessee in the same situation as a former guest on our show, and Darian Hagan. Salaseni passed away, and in the spring they tell him he's going to be getting the starting job, and knowing full well they were going to come back with a pretty loaded team with a shot at the national championship. And whoever that person, that next man up that comes into this, I think they've got to really hunker down and really put the blinders on everything on the outside, because even though there's a lot of noise out there, there's still a good quality team in that locker room that they could go after an SEC title.
Yeah, I don't know how good they are, honestly. I'm on the fence about this team just because Dylan Sampson's gone.
Correct.
He was the SEC Offensive Player of the Year last year. He had set the SEC record for touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. He was a big chunk of their offense. Everyone that had a catch in their wide receiver core also gone. Nico, Brew McCoy and Dante Thornton are in the NFL draft. Squirrel White hit the portal. And so they don't have anybody coming. And their receivers weren't that good to begin with, to be honest. But they're gone. And, Cooper Mays, their captain, starting center for the last 4 years, whether you like him or not, he's been a mainstay. He's gone. Campbell's gone off to the offensive line. Devontae Spriggins is gone. James Pierce Jr., their 17 and a half sacks over the last 2 years. He's gone. I'm concerned about some of these departures. Obviously, every year you've got that. But where does this team go? I'm not sure. It'll depend on what they do at quarterback. They've only got 2 scholarship guys at quarterback, which worries me. One of them is a true freshman who just got there. The other one is Merklinger, who I'll get your thoughts on him. But where the team goes is a big question. The other question I've got for you, and the question I want to tackle first, where does Nico go? Me and you talked about yesterday how I'd heard that there is a rule in place that he cannot go to another SEC school in the spring transfer portal period. You can't go, I guess, in conference is what I've heard. And, Paul Feinbaum said that yesterday when he was talking about this, and I've heard a couple other people say that. So let's just say that's true. He's not going to go to another SEC school. They're not going to sign that waiver. Where does he go, James? And where, who might be in the market for him? And where do you think he might want to go?
Obviously there is a couple options sitting out there if all things were equal. Like, you take away the noise. Ohio State would be a logical place just because Will Howard has moved on, and there's that void there at quarterback where no one really has stepped up and grabbed the reins. You could say Colorado, because really what's going on in Boulder now that Shadur's gone. Another place, and I hear this name popped up, but I don't like it, is Oregon. Dante Moore. I think if Nico goes there, if I'm Dante Moore, I'm out. This kid is a real freaking talent. And in all honesty, I would probably take Dante Moore over Nico. Those are 3 possible spots that he could end up. God, I mean, there's Texas Tech has just got rolls of money. I mean, there's so many places. It just depends on what they want to do. But the problem is almost everybody has somebody penciled in at that quarterback position, unless they saw something in spring ball they didn't like.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the key, and we won't know that at all. I mean, no coach is going to sit there and come out of camp saying, "God, we really suck at quarterback." I mean, another possibility, maybe Notre Dame. I mean, Riley Leonard's moved on. If they do, it'd be the third year in a row. I mean, Steve Angel is projected to be that guy, but that could be a possibility too as well. But like a Michigan, I don't see Michigan happening at all.
No, they just paid $12 million for Bryce Underwood.
Yeah, I mean, if he was able to go in the SEC, honestly, Bama or Georgia would be a logical fit. I as much crap is going on in Athens, I don't know if it'd be smart for Kirby to bring him in, because it seems like Georgia's biggest rival right now is the police, with all the interactions they're having, and with Kalen DeBoer at Bama. I mean, it seems like they've been pretty set on Ty Simpson for some time after Milroe would move on. But
yeah, they're pretty high on their freshman too, and I don't think
yeah.
I really don't think he's going anywhere in the SEC. Honestly, Notre Dame, I think, really likes Steve Angeli. Angeli looked good when he played.
Especially in the playoff. Yeah,
and then when he got, I was going to say, when he got in 2 years ago in the bowl game, he looked really good. And then this past year when he played in the playoff, when Riley Leonard got banged up, he looked good. So I like Angeli. And then they've got guys behind him. They've got Kenny Minchie, who's a redshirt sophomore. They've got CJ Carr, who's a redshirt freshman. All three of those guys played yesterday in their spring. I don't know if it was yesterday, but in their spring game, I believe it was yesterday. And I watched, and they all three looked pretty good. So I think Notre Dame's set. Oregon, I could see. Just because they, as you mentioned, they've been, pulling the trigger on guys at quarterback quite a bit in the transfer portal with Riley Leonard and Sam Hartman. They've done that at Notre Dame. They've also done it at Oregon, like we were just saying with, last year, Dylan Gabriel, and then obviously the year before with the kid from Auburn. So Bo Nix. And I think, Oregon is a potential landing spot. But Dante Moore is there. They kind of, wanted him. If they didn't like him in the spring, like you said, then they could bring him in or just bring him in for competition. But this is you got to have the money. And then obviously you've got to, have the structure of, being potentially win now mode if you're going to pay the piper for this kid. So, I can't really tell you where he's a fit. I can tell you that I don't really think they're going to bring him in Ohio State. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
But I think they're in pretty good shape right now. They've got Tavian St. Clair, the freshman #1 player in the country last year. They've got Julian Sayin, who was the #1 quarterback the year before. They also have Lincoln Kleinholz, who some people like. So they're pretty stacked. I think maybe if he was available in the fall, they might have gone for him. But, Ohio State isn't in the business of just being the highest bidder on some of these guys, especially in the portal. They want to bring in guys that want to be there, and they want to bring in guys that, you play well, we'll give you money, but they don't want to play the Michigan game and just give out sacks of cash just for coming there. So, maybe Michigan is a spot. Hell, they did give – they did give him $12 million in Underwood to show up there. So maybe they'll pay Nico to come and play there and make the other kid learn. I don't know, but this will be interesting to watch, as we move forward in the spring and the summer, because, that window is only open for a certain amount of time. And I think the other factor that'll play into this is what other quarterbacks decide to bounce. Yeah. And, is there anybody better than him? Because right now, obviously, he's the biggest name in the spring portal. But, that could obviously change, right?
Well, I mean, there's two other schools while we're sitting here I'm like thinking about that could possibly be a player. They're not major players, but I look at it like Maryland. I mean, with Tua's kid brother moving on, that may be a spot where he could fit, or even North Carolina too as well, because we really don't know the health and viability of Max Johnson right now after he blew out his knee in the first game of the year last year against Minnesota.
Yeah, well, North Carolina has proven in the last several months that they're willing to spend cash, obviously, with bringing in Bill Belichick and then opening the checkbook on National Signing Day. So that is, that does make a lot of sense. And maybe he would hit there. Do I think he's better than Max Johnson? Yeah, I do. I think he's better than that.
Max Johnson's pretty good, but it's like he doesn't have that it factor, which Nico really has. I mean, possibly Florida State too as well, but I mean, you got the transfer coming in from Boston College. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I mean, those seem like the most logical fits right now is like the tier A, Ohio State, Oregon, Colorado. Who knows? Somebody could pop up out of the blue like a USC for all we know. I mean, it's stranger things have happened.
Yeah. Tommy Castellanos is the kid at Florida State who played at Boston College, and he was disgruntled there, so he bounced out. I could see Florida State as a potential landing spot. They need to win. Obviously, last year was a absolute disaster. 2 wins after going to the to the bowl game the year before and potentially playing for a national title before their quarterback got hurt. So I could see Florida State, honestly. They tried DJ Uiagalelei. That didn't work. They've moved on. But, do I think Castellanos is a bona fide kid that can bring this program to prominence? No, I don't. I really don't. I mean, he showed some flashes at Boston College, but then he really fizzled out towards the end of the season. And I think Florida State, honestly, makes a lot of sense to me because it's not in the SEC. It is a program that doesn't have the kind of money that some of these other ones do, but they've been able to find cash when they need it, and I could see him going and playing for Norvell. That just seems like a potential landing spot for him. So anyway, done with the Nico talk. I think we hit it pretty hard there. There was about 24 minutes of it, so we can probably move on at this point. From that. But that was big news, man. I mean, it's big news around here. And honestly, it was big national news as that's what everybody's talking about. And I do think it does. My last thoughts on it is that it does set a good precedent in the fact that Tennessee stood up to him. They said no. They said, we will move on without you. He said, well, I'm leaving if you don't give me the money. And they said, okay, here, don't let that door hit you on the ass. And, I like that. And I really respect Coach Heupel, the Tennessee administration, the athletic director, the people in charge of the collective. I give them big time kudos. We all saw, obviously, this is the NFL, but we saw what happened in the NFL with Deshaun Watson. I didn't like that move from the beginning when he refused to play for the Houston Texans and he sat out the entire season, collected his $18+ million and wouldn't play. And then the next year he gets in all that, hot water about the massage parlors, has the 27 lawsuits against him. And then you give him $230 million guaranteed. And I was like, this is not going to go well. And let's be honest, it's been the worst free agent signing in the history of the NFL. And it's just been a shit show, excuse my language. So, I think not that has anything to do with college football, but I'm just saying, you gotta be smart about this, who you bring in, why you bring them in. You can't just go out there and throw money around and throw players around and see where it sticks. You got to be, you got to be thoughtful about this, and you got to bring in the right guys for your culture. So we're going to talk spring game here in about 30 seconds.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
All right. Now we get to talk a little football. We got a little taste yesterday. Obviously, everybody's moving away from the traditional game format, but, they still were doing a pretty live scrimmage up there in Columbus. The 2024 national champions. Damn, it feels good to say that. Your Ohio State Buckeyes got to get out on the field yesterday and show what they got. They got their rings. Former Buckeyes were on the sidelines. Kind of a shitty crowd, honestly. There was like 40,000 people there, which kind of puzzled me, but whatever. The main thing obviously is the quarterbacks were out there on display. Lincoln Kleinholz started the game, and then they brought in Julian Sayin for the Scarlet. To be honest with you, I did not like what I saw from Kleinholz. I took some heat online for my comments, but I was just being honest. I thought Julian Sayin looked a lot better. I thought he looked, just more poised. He made the simple throws. He made some difficult throws. I liked what I saw out of him. And, I liked what I saw out of this offensive line at Ohio State. It looked, the pieces that they brought in, Daniels, the kid from Minnesota, obviously at right tackle. Ethan Owanuya, the kid from Rice, played left tackle. I thought he looked good. Carson Hintzman at center, who played at the end of last year. I thought the offensive line looked really good. To be honest with you, the only issue I saw that was glaring in my mind was defensive line. I feel like they need to go out in the portal and add at least one, maybe two defensive linemen. Other than that, I was impressed with the linebackers, the corners, the wide receivers. Obviously, I like the young running backs, Bo Jackson, Sam Dixon, Peoples. I think they're good at running back. And also the kid Donaldson from West Virginia. James, he looked a lot better than I expected. So I want to get your thoughts on the quarterback competition, St. Clair, Kleinholz, Sayin. Which one do you like? And then do you agree with me on my assessment of the O-line and D-line?
Yeah, I would. I mean, honestly, if I was Ryan Day right now, I would be basically strong, hard penciling, saying as your starting guy come fall camp. And Kleinholz obviously is your third stringer. Honestly, I actually thought Kleinholz was going to go in the portal because I just don't see an avenue for him to really ever play except in mop-up duty in Columbus. It was just kind of a weird pick to begin with. And maybe there's some bias going back to the bowl game against Missouri where he was just a mess.
Bad.
To put it blunt. I mean, granted, the offensive line did him no favors, but he did nothing when he knew what was coming at him. I mean,
I'm so glad you brought that up, and I'm going to let you finish your thought, but I want to add on that because I mentioned it, and people were killing me online for it, saying, oh, you can't count that game. Oh, he was just a freshman and got thrown out there when he didn't even expect to play. I get all that. I didn't expect him to light it up, James. I didn't even expect him to win. I expected him to look bad. My one thing was, James, I wanted to see a flash.
Yeah.
I wanted to see one throw, one play that I was like, oh, he's got some talent at least. I didn't see anything, and that's what bothers me. Go on.
It would have been better. It would have almost been better if, to use a reference from the Water Boy, remember in the bowl game where the opposing team did 3 knees? Those would have been better, honestly, because it was just like he looked scared out of his freaking mind. I mean, if you know blitzes are coming, okay, then call audibles for, blitzes are coming, screens, slants, quick routes, things of that sort. I mean, because they didn't do anything. He just sat there and just took the beating. I mean, it was like Missouri was a bully and they were trying to get his freaking lunch money. And I honestly, I keep going back to that game over and over again. And I'm like, you got to show me something. And he's never showed me anything of that spark that he's going to actually grab the bull by the horns in this offense. He doesn't. I call me crazy. Now, on the defensive line, let's be honest. Last year you had a front six, front seven, which was historic in many ways. I mean, you're going to see a majority of those guys play at the next level and probably have pretty long careers too as well. It's hard to replace that. It's going to take time. And I, obviously with the transfer portal there, to find some pieces, but I think you're crazy in thinking that you're going to basically be just as good or better than you were last year across, especially the front four. I mean, that was a very special front four overall. Now, stranger things have happened. We've seen those players push up, but it's going to be tough. I mean, the work is cut out, and also with a new defensive coordinator, I mean, you're changing everything once again. So
yeah, I agree. I do think they're going to try and keep a lot of the stuff that they did last year. They're going to try and keep some consistency with the defense, I think, is what they're saying. I think Patricia will have his own, spin on it, but I think they're going to try and keep a lot. I mean, why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think they're going to try and do a lot of the same things, but they don't have the same personnel. Okay.
No, not at all.
Melton left and hit the portal. They had several defensive tackles that left and hit the portal. I don't have a serious problem with the guys that they have. Caden Curry's been there for a long time. He's a senior. Caden McDonald has shown a lot of flashes. Edric Houston, the sophomore, got serious playing time as a freshman and looked good. Kenyatta Jackson Jr. played a ton last year as a redshirt sophomore and looked really good. I don't have a problem with any of those four guys. My issue is behind them. They don't have any depth at all. And that concerns me, especially in the defensive tackle department. There is just no depth there. If somebody were to get hurt, and also, with playing a 16-game season, potentially 17-game season, you're going to need a ton more depth at defensive line. Now, that being said, they moved C.J. Hicks to edge. I think that was smart. He hasn't really looked good at the linebacker position, not to mention the fact that they're stacked at linebacker. They've got Riley Pettyjohn, the freshman that came in, obviously Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles, both coming back, both played really well last year. So they've got two probably of the best linebackers, the best linebacker tandem in the country. So they're good there. But the defensive line was probably the biggest issue to me. The other guy that really popped for me, and it's kind of hard to pop at wide receiver when Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis are on your team, but Mylan Graham, the freshman 5-star kid, he looked like a senior out there, making catches, running routes, getting guys off of him, separating. This kid is going to play. He's going to play early, and he's going to produce right away. And Brian Hartline has hit gold again with this wide receiver, and it's amazing how he keeps doing it. But Mylan Graham was the guy that just really, really stuck out to me. And the other guy was Max Clare, the tight end. I believe he's from Purdue. He looks good. I mean, Ohio State hasn't had a tight end like this kid in a long time. I think the last guy that had over 40 catches was Chris Dudley back in the 90s. This guy's going to have 50 catches or more, James. What do you think about Max Clare and the tight end that came in from Purdue?
Honestly, you look back at Purdue ever since Joe Tiller came in, that was a position group that they really, I mean, are they Iowa? No, not by any stretch of the imagination, where Iowa can freaking pull out tight ends out of their, rear end. But Purdue has been always one of those programs that's been very underrated in producing tight ends. And it didn't shock me one bit when I saw Claire went in the portal and went to Columbus, that he was going to really stand out and be shown more, because really, how many people really watch Purdue unless you're a Big Ten guy? He's a I wouldn't say a special talent, but definitely he's going to give another option in that passing attack, especially between the hashes.
Yeah, I liked him, and he had a big-time touchdown yesterday. Beautiful pass down the seam from Sayin, and he looked really good to me, and will be another threat because they got so much talent on the outside. You know, as I just said, Jeremiah Smith, probably the best player in all of college football. Carnell Tate would be a number one at every school in the country except for this one. Brandon Ennis is a proven player. They got Quincy Porter, the freshman, Mylan Graham, Bryson Rogers. They're stacked at wideout. So, you know, you got to cover those guys. And with everybody paying attention to Jeremiah Smith, Max Clare is going to find himself wide open in the middle of the field quite often. So we'll see what happens moving forward with the defensive line, but do not be surprised if you see Ohio State add some D tackles down the stretch, because I think they're going to bring some guys in, and I think they're going to, you know, put some dudes in place at the defensive tackle position because they need depth for sure. Knoxville, we were talking about Nico. Obviously, he's gone. It was kind of weird that they had to have the spring game on the day that Nico took off. That was very strange. But you know, you gotta move on. He said that we're moving on, and guess what? They did. They moved on. They had their spring game without him, and you know, it was kind of you know, not very flashy, let's just say. But you know, they put these kids out there. George McIntyre, obviously, I got to see quite a bit, considering he went to Brentwood Academy, which plays you know, in the same conference as my alma mater, Knoxville Catholic. So I got to see him play up close and personal. You know, kid has some talent. There's no doubt. He's big, he's tall, he's long, he's rangy. I do not think he's ready to play right away. And then they've got, you know, Merklinger, who has been there for a while, showed me some things that, you know, he looked better than I expected. But what do you think about the two quarterbacks that they have, James? And do you think that if they had to roll with these two kids, they would be okay?
God, that's a tough question. Would they be okay?
Eight wins or more. Could they win 8 games or more with these two kids?
Until Heupel proves me wrong, yeah, I guess they could. I mean, honestly, God, I've seen this guy pull more rabbits out of the hat than anything I've ever seen. I would have to say it's going to be creative in what he's done. I mean, you go back and look at all the quarterbacks. Like, he's had some pretty historic quarterbacks, way better than Nico, that he's had to replace. I mean, hell, a Heisman Trophy winner in Sam freaking Bradford. I mean, it just goes to show you what he has done at every stop. He's a great coach. If I'm a betting man right now, I think he's probably got McIntyre probably is his penciled in, but it's probably light penciled in going number 1 in the fall camp. But I mean, he's not afraid to make the switch at all in any stretch of the imagination. And, you know, who knows who could jump in the portal too as well. I think you go on some of the message boards, I think they're kind of freaking crazy trained who they think they're going to get, where they think it's like old country buffet and they can grab whatever they want. Yeah.
Don't you think that Aaron Nolan wishes he would have waited a little while to make his decision instead of going to South Carolina? Don't you think he could start at Tennessee?
I honestly, I never understood why Aaron Nolan went to South Carolina to begin with when Lenora Sellers is sitting there. That's
what I said.
I was like, that was when I thought it was a joke. Like, when I thought it said USC, I thought it meant Southern Cal. Now
that would make more sense.
Columbia.
That would make more sense.
It made zero sense what the hell he was thinking. I don't know. I mean, because you know, whenever you think you got this thing game cornered, something with the new transfer portal, everything changes in a second. The dynamic could change on a dime. I mean, hell, look at the quarterback who was at UNLV who transferred out after 3 games.
Yeah.
Who came from Holy Cross?
Yeah.
I mean, we can't even tell who's going to be who's going to be on the roster by the end of the year, let alone the beginning of the year.
Yeah, well, they rolled on without him too, didn't they? But as I said, I'm concerned about this team a little bit. You know, losing Dylan Sampson is huge. Just think about the year before when they had Jalen Wright, they had Dylan Sampson, and they had Jabari Small. They had 3 NFL running backs on the roster at once. Last year, it was kind of Dylan Sampson, and they had, some other guys that played well. Obviously, we like our boy Deshaun Bishop, and Peyton Lewis showed some things, but not the same caliber as those guys. On the outside, they're going to have to roll with Mike Matthews, the sophomore. They're probably going to have to play Braylon Staley, the redshirt freshman. Chris Bozel's probably going to get some playing time, but I don't love what they've got on the outside. The offensive line is kind of unproven. The other question I've got is with Nico bouncing, what does that mean for David Sanders? He's the number 1 player in the country, James, and he waited a long time to make his decision to come to Tennessee. And now, obviously, with the spring portal opening up, the cash is going to come flying for him. I don't know how much cash people are going to throw at Nico, but there's going to be a lot of cash coming at David Sanders because there was already a lot coming after him to begin with. And I just, I'm nervous about whether or not he honors his commitment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy. It is. I mean, it's going to be interesting how this is going to transpire later on, because the rules are going to change on this probably within the next 1 to 2 years of how this whole issue, because it's the wild, wild west. I mean, and if as a fan, if you don't even have an idea who your team is going to be 2 weeks out, you're starting to get disenfranchised because you're excited about players. You're excited about what you're going to see. If you don't understand what you're going to have, what can you look forward to?
Yeah, man. As Coach Heupel said, this is the world we live in. You have to deal with it, but it doesn't mean you have to like it. And hopefully there's going to be some changes because this is just not right, the way that this is working. We said a long time ago that they should welcome the change, structure the change, and bring it in, constructively instead of just fighting it tooth and nail to the end and then losing, where they have to, basically just have a free-for-all. And it's just weird. And, it kind of scares me. But let's get into the draft here and talk a little bit about the quarterbacks that are going to be coming out in the 2025 NFL draft, as well as the edge rushers.
National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by BetUs.com, designed for true fans. NFL odds, Week 1 and futures, college football odds, including Heisman Trophy favorites and playoff odds, NBA odds of division winners and playoffs, Major League Baseball playoff and World Series odds, the National Hockey League Conference playoffs and Stanley Cup odds, and boxing wagers. Betting opportunities include versus the spreads and outright winners, also during the game. Use our link on our website, nessp.info, the Bet Us Opportunities webpage, for a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. Must be 21 years old, and remember, bet responsibly.
All right, everybody, make sure when you're placing your wagers to go to betus.com. Please bet responsibly. Do not bet money that you do not have. Understood? Okay, moving on. We're going to talk a little NFL draft here. I think we should lead off with the edge rushers. I want to talk about the guys that are coming out this 2025 draft. They're going to be getting after the quarterback. We'll get into the quarterbacks too and do a quick overview of them. I think everybody knows who the quarterbacks are. I think everybody knows that this quarterback class sucks for the most part. I think there's some hidden gems, but I don't like the guys up at the top. I don't think anybody really does. That's why they're all, fighting over Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. You wouldn't be signing those clowns if there was anybody in this draft. But the edge rusher population, I do like. And there's some guys that have stuck out to me and that I really like. And I'm going to throw those out first, James, and tell you who I like. Then I want you to kind of talk about those guys as far as which ones you like out of my group. And also, give me yours. Obviously, number one is Carter. I mean, he's he's the best pass rusher. I mean, there's no doubt about it. 12 sacks, 68 tackles, 2 forced fumbles. He's got it. Okay, we don't even have to really talk about him. He's legit. He's good. He's going to be the next Penn State dude in the NFL. I mean, is he the comparisons to Micah Parsons? I don't know if he's that good, but he's pretty damn good. So Abdul Carter is definitely the best edge rusher in this draft. I would take him if I needed a guy. I would take him probably number 1 in this draft if I had to go get him. That's just who I like the most. Number 2 might surprise you. My favorite is Pierce. I like Pierce, man. After I saw him run that 4.47 40, that was all I needed to see. You know, the Georgia guys are good. I get all that. You know, game wreckers, whatever. But Pierce is the guy that has the most production over the last 2 years. 17.5 sacks in the SEC. As I said, 4.47 40. You know, there's people talk about character issues. First off, I don't give a shit about character issues if you're rushing the quarterback. As long as he shows up and plays, you know, I like Pierce. And you know, probably my next guy would be you know, Mikael Williams. I like him the best out of the 2. You know, Jalen Walker and Williams. I like Williams the best just because he does have more production. And he was able to take over games at times. You know, he was the best player on the field. The next guy for me would be Green out of Marshall, just because of the production, man. I mean, you know, I know he played in the MAC, but you lead the NCAA in sacks with 17. And, you know, he played pretty well in the games against Ohio State and Virginia Tech. He had 9 hits on the quarterback against Virginia Tech. So I do think he's the real deal, and I like him. And then my last guy, I like the dude out of Boston College. I hate saying this name. As Aruka, whatever, 16.5 sacks. That's all you need to know. He also had 80 tackles. He's had 8 forced fumbles in the last 3 years. That to me is what really sticks out. You know, when I watch the tape, he's unblockable at times, and I like him. James, who are your guys that I didn't mention, and what do you think about those guys?
Yeah, I like him. I would have put him in a little bit different order. Obviously, Carter is the man. I mean, you know, it's just because Micah Parsons and him, just because they both played at Penn State, they're completely different players.
Different. I agree.
I mean, I mean, it's kind of crazy hearing those comparisons because Parsons was a lot taller, where I think Carter's explosion is much stronger. I mean, especially his dip and rip. He you got to keep a low base if you're a left tackle going up against Carter, right tackle. I mean, if you stand up at all, he is going to have fun with you. A name he didn't mention is Shamar Stewart. Usually I'm not the biggest fan of like going crazy after the combine, but those numbers were ridiculous. And I think there's that potential there. Now, would I go top 15 with him? No. But I think there's real potential there. Mikael Williams, I love him in 3-4 sets as a down lineman, 4-3 as an edge rusher. He's functional. He's big. He can do both run and pass. I'd like him, honestly, probably my second favorite down lineman in this group.
You like him over Walker?
Yeah, I do. I really do, because I think he provides more. Walker is just going to be really he really is a 3-4 guy that would have to fit like with what JJ Watt or TJ Watt is doing in Pittsburgh. I think he's got to be in a 3-4 set at that next level where Williams could play 4-3 or 3-4. You talked about Mike Green. I really like him. Pierce, especially on pass rushing capabilities. I think he's going to be a third down menace. A guy who, you know, there's 2 guys who I don't think are getting talked about enough is the Carter's, the other D end at Penn State is Danny Dennis Sutton. You know, really violent hands, but he never got talked about as much because everybody was so concentrated on Carter. He had quite a few sacks last year. And my late round guy is I've got two of them that I think have huge upsides. One is a former UTSA transfer to Texas, Trey Moore. He's got that 14 sack upside to him. And then Ja Joyner, 6'6", really bendy. He had 10.5 sacks for loss. I could see him being creating havoc, really that Matthew Judon type of player. But I could see him getting drafted that 4th, 5th, or 6th round, really a third day type of player.
Yeah, man, there's good pass rushers that are going to go in the 2nd or 3rd round for sure. I like Oladejo from UCLA as well.
Yes.
I like the other kid from A&M as well, Nick Squirton, who originally started at Purdue. He led the Big Ten in sacks 2 seasons ago, and then had some production at at A&M. I think he had 5 sacks last year, a couple of pass defense, 2 forced fumbles. He was legit as well. And Shamar Stewart, I didn't mention him. He's probably the most crazy prospect in this draft because of, like you said, potential. The issue I've got with him is that he's had 1.5 sacks 3 years in a row. That bothers me.
Correct.
It's like, if you are such a badass, why can't you get to the quarterback? And I get it. Like, you can't expect everybody to have 15 sacks every year. It's all about when where protection is rolled, what things open up. And it's crazy when these numbers hit. But the 1.5 sacks bothers me. That just scares the shit out of me. But I did like, what I saw out of him. Anybody that's 270 pounds that can run a 4.5 40. That's just, you can't teach that.
See, that's why I was afraid of putting in the top 15, because then you're getting him a Mike Mamula range. And I mean, you just got to freaking hedge your bets on something like that. I mean, honestly, late 1st round, late 1st round. Yeah, but not top 15. I mean, that's really rolling the dice. So.
I agree. And I've heard some other prognosticators talking about Jahad Campbell as a potential edge rusher. To me, I think he's an inside linebacker that you can bring with pressure. But talking about him as an edge guy, I don't really see. But I do like him, and I think he's a great prospect in this draft. I think he's a top 15 draftable prospect, and you can use him in that role. But I just think he does so much dropping into coverage. He does so much playing the run that I wouldn't want to dedicate him solely as an edge guy. What are your thoughts on him?
I would agree. I would agree completely. What's funny is they're trying to, because people forget Abdul Carter last year was a linebacker for a majority of that season. And they're trying to find that next Abdul Carter that fits that same type of realm that he has. That's what's funny is, like, honestly, sorry to switch topics back to Carter, is it's almost in some ways like Brian Urlacher. Because remember when Urlacher came out, nobody knew where the hell they were going to play him.
Yeah, safety.
Play him at safety, linebacker. You play him at D end. I could see the same thing with Carter in the same breath.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I could see. I don't think Carter. I don't think he gets past 4. To be honest with you,
No.
I think he may go 2 to the Cleveland Browns. I mean, you put him on the other side of Myles Garrett. Plus, I know they just gave the big deal to Garrett, but he's not getting any younger.
No.
And if you get Abdul Carter, you've got yourself set up there. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes 2, going number 3 to the Giants. I wouldn't be shocked with that. And he certainly isn't getting past number 4 with the New England Patriots. So, Abdul Carter is the guy that's going to really make the most magic to me in this draft for sure. Shamar Stewart, like I said, he's the biggest wild card because I don't know where he's going to go. I don't know what people are thinking about him. I know there's some defensive line coaches that think they can nurture this dude into a player, and certainly he has the potential, but it just worries me, the production numbers coming out. And, the one guy we didn't really talk about really is the kid Walker from Georgia, 6'1", 245, 61 tackles. I like 6.5 sacks, pretty good production. Let's be honest. If you go and you watch the tape of the 2 Georgia versus Texas games, I mean, that's ones versus ones, bro. Those are 2 of the best programs in the country. Both have played for the national title every year for the last couple of years. Let's be honest, James. Jalen Walker and Mikael Williams were the 2 best players on the field, in my opinion, in both of those games. But we didn't really talk about Walker. What do you think about him, and where do you think he goes in this draft?
I think he goes late first, early second. I mean, honestly, I look at him as a 3-4 linebacker. He's like in that TJ Watt type of realm. He's just got that great burst. Not as good in run protection as like a Mikael Williams, but I think you put him in a 4-3 as a linebacker. I think he's too small at DN in a 4-3 and not really usable in as a linebacker in a 4-3 set.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's doesn't have the length of Mikael Williams. Mikael Williams averaged out at about 6'5.5", almost 6'6", 260 pounds. So he's got that length, and he
looks bigger. That's the thing. Mikael Williams looks like he's like 280.
Yeah,
like he looks bigger than he is.
I agree. And, the thing with Walker is, as far as the NFL goes, he doesn't have that prototypical size.
No.
It lists him at 6'1", but I don't know if he's really that tall. And, that could be an issue when everybody's big in the NFL. And the good news is he's got that burst. But, we've seen Georgia defensive linemen show out. We've seen guys coming from Kirby Smart that really know what they're doing. When they get on the field. So we're coming up against it here. I don't know if we really have time to talk quarterbacks. I think we should probably leave that for another day because I don't know if we can scoot that into 3 minutes. But we can certainly talk about the number 1 quarterback. I think it's worth hitting on at least here for a couple of minutes, and that's, Cam Ward. Everybody's got him penciled in going to the Titans. Everyone thinks he'll be the number 1 overall pick. Got to be honest with you. If I had the number 1 pick in this draft, I would trade out. Nothing against Cam Ward. I think he's good. He showed me some things at Miami. I thought he was way better than I thought he would be. But go back and watch the Washington State tape. And, there's some things that just, there's things that don't look that great. And if you're betting your franchise, and let's talk about this for a second. Tennessee Titans. I mean, they've been drafting a quarterback forever, it feels like. They went out and they got Tannehill. That didn't work. Then they brought in Malik Willis. That didn't work. Then they got it Will Levis. That was a horrible experiment. I feel like they're going to go in the same direction here. Talk to me about Cam Ward. Would you take him if you had the number 1 overall pick? And would you bet your future on this kid?
I personally wouldn't. I mean, okay. I like Cam Ward. I think his footwork's a little off from time to time. I personally, if I'm Tennessee, if I can't trade out, I'm drafting Abdul Carter 1 and then swing back around and look at Tyler Shuck in the 2nd round.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. I mean, we'll get into these quarterbacks on our next show, but I certainly will tell you right now that I like the 2nd-tier quarterbacks way more than the first.
Me too.
And there's several that I would draft and see what I could mold with these clay boys here and see if I could mold a quarterback out of one of these guys. But I don't like either one of the first 2 guys. As far as drafting my future away, you're staking your job on these guys. Let's be honest. If you're a head coach, if you're a general manager in this league, you draft somebody number 1 or number 2 overall, even number 3, number 4 overall, you're hedging your bets. You're betting your career on this dude. And Cam Ward, he put up some crazy numbers last year. There's no doubt about that. And let's just be honest. He put up big time numbers, but I mean, I don't see that translating into being, Patrick Mahomes. I just don't see him being a guy that can just change the fortune of a franchise, especially one that sucks as bad as the Titans do right now. So that makes me nervous. And the other one that we'll talk about really fast here is Shedeur Sanders. Where he goes will determine where everybody else goes. But somebody who's 13-12 in Power 5 football, somebody who's 1-7 against top 25 competition, I would not take him in the top edge of the first round. What are your thoughts on him?
I think the arm strength just isn't there. I think he's got better footwork than Cam Ward. But I just, the arm strength concerns me quite a bit. And there's always been just a lot of drama. And I'm not sure if it's to him or to his dad or what. But yeah, and it's like, there's a reason why so many teams traded up in last year's draft.
Yeah.
Because they looked at this draft as being not as strong a draft for quarterbacks. So,
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. We'll get into the guys that we do like a little bit later. It's not that I don't like those two guys. I just don't like them in the top 3 of the draft. If I could take them at the back end of the first round, hell, I'd be all for that. I just don't like staking my franchise on either one of those guys and, potentially costing myself my career. But that's it for us today. April 13, 2025, man coverage, Knoxville Nate, James P. Bonneville signing off. Thank you to everyone who tuned in to the show. Good luck to Nico and his search for money. I hope he gets it. I have no problem with these kids making money. I just have a problem with when you've already gotten $8.6 million, haven't done shit, and then you're asking for more. That's my only issue. You know what I'm saying, James?
I do.
All right, bud. We'll talk to you next time. Keep them up. Make sure to go to SeatGeek.com, enter in promo code NSS, get your tickets, $20 off, and place your bets at betus.com. Peace.